Well, what's going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in this week. I gotta be honest, I've been kind of contemplating how I would go about tackling this topic that I want to really discuss today. This notion or idea of parenting and parents and children loving your children and what that looks like, what that entails. Does that mean affirming every single choice or decision that they want to make? Or does that mean actually putting some rules, boundaries, and limitations in place? Telling them no? Well, I think the person to best lay this out and really explain this, I think, in good detail, is Frank Turek. I have a clip that I'm going to show you. It's a pretty long clip, so I'm going to roll right into it after the intro. But I think this is a really good way to set the foundation, and then I'm going to unpack some things from that clip afterwards. So, with that said, roll the intro.
Question this way. How many parents do we have in the room here? All right, how many former children do we have in the room here? Okay, good. That's all of us then. All right? Question. If your parents approved of everything you wanted to do when you were 13 years old, would they have been loving? No, of course not. Love doesn't mean approval. Love doesn't mean enabling people to do evil. Love means you're standing in the way of evil. If you approve of everything some kid wants to do, you're not loving, you're unloving, you're an enabler. In fact, in the passage that everybody reads at their wedding, but nobody obeys, 1 Corinthians 13, here's what Paul says about love. Love does not rejoice in wrongdoing, love rejoices in the truth. Love always protects, love always perseveres. You don't protect people when you're approving of the evil they're doing. You're doing the opposite. Knock it off. In fact, Jesus, who went to the cross for us, gave us one new command. You know what the one new command is? Here it is. He says, "A new commandment I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another." How did he love us? He sacrificed himself for us. So what is love for us? It means sacrifice. It doesn't mean approval. Do you know, when we fail to say what we know to be true because we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, we're not really loving people. We're enabling them to do evil. And a lot of times we won't tell them the truth because we don't want them mad at us. And you know why we do that? Because we want to take the easy way. We will sacrifice them for our benefit rather than sacrificing ourselves for their benefit. That's what love is, to sacrifice yourself for the benefit of others. So you need to tell people what the truth is in as tactful a way as possible. Here's one way you could do it. You might say to somebody you love who, say, is wanting to approve of, say, aberrant sexual practices. They're all over now. You might say to them, "Hey, if I was about to go down a road you knew that would hurt me and hurt others and would be against God's will, would you love me enough to tell me?" What's the other person going to say? "Well, of course. Great. Can I do the same for you right now?" Love does not mean approval. Thomas Sowell is now 94 years old and says everything well. Put it this way. He said, when you want to help people, you tell them the truth. When you want to help yourself, you tell them what they want to hear. How often do we tell people what they want to hear? "Oh, we don't want to risk the relationship." Well, what kind of relationship do you have anyway if you can't tell them the truth? What are you risking? And by the way, Jesus wasn't always nice. Jesus told people the truth. In fact, if you think Jesus was a nice guy who's never said a bad word about anyone, you have not read John chapter 2, John chapter 8 or Matthew chapter 23. What happens in John chapter 2? Jesus makes a whip and he goes and he jacks people up in the temple. Oh, sweet and gentle Jesus did this? Yes! And then Jesus in in John chapter 8 goes after the Pharisees. And who are the Pharisees? They're the religious and political leaders of Israel. Some of them were on the Sanhedrin. That's the Jewish ruling council to whom Rome delegated day-to-day lawmaking authority. They were the politicians. And Jesus went after these people. Are you telling me Jesus got involved in politics? Yes! And he wasn't so nice doing it. In fact, in John chapter 8, as he goes after these politicians, what does he say to them? He's right in the middle of an argument when he says, "Your father is the devil." Jesus, you can't say that. That's not very Christ-like. Excuse me, I am Christ? Can you imagine you're having an argument with somebody and you stop right in the middle and you go, "Your father is the devil." Never try that with a sibling, by the way. And then in Matthew 23, Jesus really goes after these politicians. "What are you, scribes and Pharisees, you hypocrites? You strain out a gnat and swallow a camel. Oh, you look great on the outside, you're whitewashed tombs, but on the inside, you're full of dead men's bones. You go a mile to make a convert, and then once you make them a convert, you make them twice as much a son of hell as you are. How will you avoid being condemned to hell?" What? Sweet and gentle Jesus said this? This Jesus was not Barney. Can't we all get along, boys and girls? No! I came to bring a sword. It's going to divide mother and daughter, father and son. How often do you hear those passages talked about? But most of you in this room know those passages are true. Why? Because you're divided in your own family over Jesus. Guess what? You ought to be. You ought to be following Jesus and not the world. Jesus did not come to bring unity, not with the world. He came to bring unity in the church, but not the world. So Jesus was tough, and he didn't approve of everything, quite obviously. In fact, if love required approval, then Jesus was unloving. If love required approval, then you couldn't love your children. Now, you love them when they're little, but when they become teenagers.
Think about that. Think about that for a second. What he said there at the end. If love required approval, then Jesus was unloving. Because Jesus himself did not approve of everybody. He called the sin out. He called the hypocrisy out in people. We have to make sure that we're doing the same as parents, that we call out the sin, we call out when they're doing stuff wrong, and we correct them. We correct our kids. That is being loving, is to actually correct them. You're being unloving if you just let them do what they want. And I think a lot of parents get it twisted, is if they correct their kids, or if they don't affirm of everything, every single thing that their kid does, then they're being unloving. No. Actually, it's the opposite. If you affirm every single thing that they do, every single thing, then you are being unloving. Because you don't want to risk the relationship, like what Frank was saying there. Well, what kind of relationship do you have if you can't tell them the truth? Right? What kind of relationship do you have? You got to have a relationship where you can speak honestly and tell them the truth. If they're going down a bad path, especially if they're your kid, then tell them, "Hey, I don't approve of that. Hey, you're messing up here. Hey, don't do that." You have to be able to tell them. That is being loving, telling them the truth. And then that brings me to this other notion that a lot of people will say about my truth and your truth. But I'm going to tackle that next week, because that is a topic all on its own. So I don't want to try to cram that into today's video. I want to really focus on that next week. So I'll tackle that topic or idea or notion of your truth and my truth. So I hope you will stay tuned for that and really check that out. But I hope this helped shape or maybe course correct some of us young parents, if we have young kids that are still in the process of raising them, how to hopefully raise them correctly, what aspect or um, avenue to really take and focus on. It's okay to approve of the good things, but the bad things you have to be able to tell them no. You have to be able to tell them that it's wrong, it's a bad decision, and they can't do that, especially when they're young. When they're adults and they're 18, 19, and now they can make their own decisions, well, at that point, it's up to them. But you have to invest the time when they're young, when they're 12, 13, maybe even younger, when they can start to understand no and the reasoning behind it and explain why. Explain why. Don't just affirm everything that they want to do. That's how we get into the garbage stuff that has been going on with this transgender stuff and these pronouns. Is kids are taught that you can pick your gender, that you can choose your stuff, you can change your pronouns if you feel like you were born in the wrong body. And then parents are told, well, you're unloving and you're going to make your kids, what is the correct term that people are saying now, unalive yourself if you don't affirm everything that your kids want to do. Well, no, that is inaccurate because I've covered this many times with this whole transgender and LGBTQ stuff, but you cannot pick your gender. You cannot pick your pronouns, like you were not born in the wrong body. How you were born, I mean, you were born in the body that you were meant to be in. The stuff that goes on, you need to actually get your kids help if they're experiencing this, but oftentimes they're told or indoctrinated a certain way, and so you have to unlearn them on this bad toxic mindset and then remove them from the school or the situation where they're kind of getting this information fed to them. This is part of being a good parent, is knowing what is good for your kid and what is not good for your kid, and adjusting and parenting correctly. It's not just affirming them and going along with everything that they're saying. So I hope this really gave some insight to young parents and even older parents that have raised their kids. If you raised your kids and you kind of had rules, boundaries, and limitations put in place, then this might be a really good video for you. You're like, well, I, I did it. I did it correct. Then I did a good job. And for those of you that, I mean, you did good, but you kind of found places where you could have probably been a little bit better. Hey, you know what? It's a learning process. It's always a learning process. And for those of you that have been parenting, just affirming everything, hopefully this will shed some insight and give you some wisdom into perhaps how to course correct and how to change your parenting style. So I thank you guys so much for watching this week. Please comment below. Let me know what your thoughts are on this topic specifically. Please tune in next week for the topic of your truth versus my truth. This whole notion of that. Because I'm going to unpack it and it's going to be great. There's going to be a lot of clips I'm going to show in that video that really kind of set this up for the mindset of people thinking this way and then what it actually is. So please, tune in for that. But don't forget to like and subscribe and share this video and this channel in general with others that you feel might benefit some way and somehow from this content and these topics that I bring up and talk about. So thank you so much for watching this week, and stay safe. And until next week, be blessed.